Policy practice, Robbins Kaplan, LLP, seeks to redefine excellence for high-stakes litigation in Indian country. They have worked hand-in-hand with tribes to implement the Tribal Law and Order Act, fighting against diminishment of tribal lands and natural resources, and improving public safety on reservations. The Robbins Kaplan American Indian Law and Policy Practice serves tribes and individuals on commercial, government investigations, agency and tribal boundary disputes, as well as personal injury. Founded and led by former United States Attorneys Brendan Johnson and Tim Purdon, their American Indian Law and Policy Practice exists to bring justice to tribal clients whose claims in the past have been dismissed or ignored due to their underdog status. If you or your tribe are facing legal issues, contact robinskaplan.com or call toll-free at 1-800-553-9910.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Things are feeling so empty and lonely. I wish I could still see my friends.
Oh, hi, Mark. How have you been?
I don't know, dude. Things have just been, I don't know, actually. It's been many different things. I've mostly just felt alone.
Yeah, I know that feeling all too well, man. But things are starting to look up.
Huh? Oh, yeah, how so?
Well, they're coming out with new vaccines. We can finally see our friends again.
Yeah, I've heard of those, but I just don't know where to get them.
Well, you can get them at a vaccination clinic.
This message is brought to you by McGeezy Communications and Minnesota Department of Health.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies overnight with a low of 5 below. Thursday, some light snow with a high near 13. And Friday, sunny with a high around 15. Is estate planning still on your to-do list, or are you overdue for an update? Get started today with Schromen Law in St. Paul. Call 651-571-2515 or visit schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Alliance Energy, powering beyond.
Hey, it's just like the old days, Wendy, you and me. Remember when we did the show Pilots Progressive Party and we were all progressive and stuff?
I do remember. It was just you and me, babe.
Yeah. Hey, we got Shannon Holsey going to be showing up here, and she's the president of a Stockbridge-Munsee band of the tribe in Wisconsin, and I just been sending her the link again, and hopefully she can get that. But we'll get her on as soon as possible. But Wendy, I was telling you earlier that she knocked it out of the park. She did a speech in Wisconsin, and I wasn't able to make it because of the weather hazards we had here in the Twin Cities. But I got to watch it online, and it was just an amazing speech. And a matter of fact, I do believe she is here now. Welcome, President. Thank you so much for stopping in to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. And this is Wendy and I, and we do this show. I know we've done a couple other projects together before, but this is the first time you're on Native Roots Radio, and I really appreciate it. I just want to say we have listeners in Madison. We have a station that plays our show live in Madison and Milwaukee, and all over Turtle Island, and we're in Chicago, and also in Michigan too. So we're really excited to have you on. And before I get to your awesome speech, can you just tell our people basically who you are?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Wendy and Robert. My name, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're calling in from. My name is Shannon Holsey, and I am the president of the Stockbridge-Munsee Band of Mohican Indians, and we are located here in central Wisconsin, and we are one of 11 federally recognized tribes.
That's awesome. And then how long have you been president?
I am going on my 4th term, and I have been in whatever you want to call it, tribal politics for about 15 years now.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm new to that game, and I'm sorry I missed your speech live, but I did watch it over the interweb, and you knocked it out of the park. And I think me being a Minnesotan president, I think it was really great to hear how much common thought we have as tribal members and nations all across the Turtle Island, because you resonated big time. As far as I understood, you could have been from Minnesota speaking your truth. Really, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting, Robert. Like you said, like in terms of the 580 respective sovereigns, there is oftentimes commonality about the challenges we face as sovereigns and exercising it and upholding it. But at the core of who we are as Indigenous people, we always come back to stewarding land and making sure that our trust and treaty responsibilities are met to make sure that we take care of our citizens, whether it be healthcare or right now, especially during the pandemic, mental health care, and just making sure that all those basic needs, plus, managing our own sovereign governments and, making sure, as I said, the trustee responsibility. And oftentimes, the challenge, I'm sure you and Wendy will both agree, as Indigenous people and as Indigenous sovereigns is oftentimes you find yourself re-educating people all the time, whether it be state officials or national or federal officials. It's always, it's just the sort of invisibility of who we are.
Wendy does a animal section on our show every day for the last 5 years, and you really hit a home run for me when I heard you talking about our relatives, which we talk about every day here on Native Roots Radio, and that really, that for sure, I wanted to reach out and get you on, because that we don't talk about that enough as Native people, but they are our relatives. We need to amplify that more and speak our truth like you did. So that was awesome to hear in this speech, Wendy. President, I'm telling Wendy, but yeah.
It's okay. No, because we're all interconnected, right? We're all related, and Creator put these things in our lives for intended purpose. And I think people have to understand the significance of it. You very rarely find Indigenous people that even, for example, hunt if it isn't for subsistent purposes. And in respect to the overkill, or in my opinion, the blood sport that occurred in Wisconsin, especially during breeding season, was not only irresponsible, but it was disrespectful.
Totally. And Wendy, do you want to chime in? I know we talked about it a lot. I talked to, as a matter of fact, I went and golfed with the governor and brought it up and had a wolf hat on. And Wendy, we fight that every time, or all the time, right?
Yes, absolutely. We just had President Maureen Hackett, and she's the founder of Howling for Wolves. And there was a bloodbath of wolves in Wisconsin. The wolf hunt was shut down after 3 days, and the quota that they were supposed to have far exceeded the kill quota. And I'm just happy to say that the wolves are put back on the endangered species list now, and that Wisconsin and other states will not be having a wolf hunt this season. So I'm really, really happy about that.
Indeed, Wendy. And coincidentally, I did the State of the Tribes address 5 years ago when they delisted, or they were going to delist the wolf and its protections. And to your point, I think it's estimated that there are just under 6,000 gray wolves. And to have, to your point, 100 wolves permitted to be killed, and their number ended up to be 218 over the course of 3 days. In my opinion, and with all due respect, you don't consume a wolf. Anishinaabe people don't eat wolves. They revere wolves, to your point, Robert and Wendy, because they're a part of our clan system of who we are.
Yeah, and again, my heart sung when you brought that up, and it was right on, because it almost goes down political lines, who are against and who are for that. Also, too, I know Minnesota here, we talk about it daily, line 3, and we know our brothers and sisters are going to be dealing with line 5, and you brought that up too, and many kudos to you.
Well, thank you. And it's to the point, Wendy and Robert, about always that stewarding, because Indigenous people are inherently that the land is not owned by us. It's just borrowed for future generations. And we are part of it. It is a part of who we are. And so when you have, extractive mining, or you have the idea of pipelines, you really have to look at it critically, and because because it's connected not only from a subsistence perspective and its stewarding of our land and our water and the potential of toxic poisoning, but it's really the other aspect of it is the tributaries and the Great Lakes, and our people have used the Great Lakes since time immemorial, and so we feel connection to it, but we have a significant responsibility to it. And I don't even think people made that correlation, in terms of that, as we did have some preliminary discussions with our governor previous to the State of the Tribes address, and he did indicate that it was at a precursory sort of draft review. But we said to him, we have organizations like Glyphwick, and they are scientists. They have built their careers around preservation and stewarding and all those things, and there needs to be really coordination efforts in terms of looking at that. But the hazards that were created or proposed with that, and it crosses over 200, I believe, 80 rivers and streams, and it supplies, in the Great Lakes water supply supplies over 40 million people with their drinking water. I think that it certainly is reason to pause and to be concerned about those types of things.
President Halsey, do you have a time to step in for another quick segment after we have these quick commercials?
Sure. If you guys find me interesting enough, absolutely. I'd love to stay.
We sure do, because you're speaking our truth too, and we love it. This is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just two reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Bonjour relatives, my name is Deanna Standing Cloud. I'm from the Red Lake Nation, and I live in Minneapolis today. As the weather gets colder, you're probably going to spend more time indoors, but it's important to stay safe and healthy. The COVID-19 pandemic is still not over, and now the flu season is upon us. So protect you and your loved ones by getting vaccinated against both the flu and COVID-19. COVID booster shots have now been approved for Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. And you're eligible if you're over 65 and if you're over 18 and have underlying health conditions or work in a high-risk setting. What's cool is your booster shot does not need to be of the same brand as your original series of shots. And you can receive a booster shot of any brand that's available to you. Children over the age of 5 are now eligible for a vaccine as well. So let's protect our relatives in Indian country this winter and get vaccinated. Be a vaccinative like me. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov. Miigwech Bizendawian.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Well, we're super stoked to have President Shannon Holsey, the president of Stockbridge-Munsee Band of Mohican Indians. We really appreciate you coming on here. And, I'd like to get back to just talk a little bit about your nation first, and then we can talk a little bit more about your tribe. How many people do you have in your nation, and where is it located?
Robert and Wendy, we are located in central Wisconsin, and we have a little under 1,700 citizens. But of course, we weren't always originally from Wisconsin. It's where we came to through the Forest Removal and Indian Relocation Act. Our original ceded territory is in upstate New York. We spent a considerable amount of time there, and then during the Civil War, we were at one of the longest places for about 75 years in Massachusetts, hence our name, Munsee, which is Stockbridge, which is English actually. And then we ended up coming across with the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin across the whole Ohio Valley to southern Wisconsin, and then we acquired our land through purchase by the Menominee Nation.
That's awesome. Do you have a traveling story like the Ojibwe here in Minnesota, where they were looking for food that floated on the water?
Well, I think it's true, right? And I think it's like our creation story where I think people, especially as the connection to water and land, because we are the people of the water that is never still, because Indigenous people have always lived where their food source or water source were, right? And in some sense of the word, I'm sure people are going to be upset that I say that, we were somewhat nomadic because we would never extract all of the resources from one place. So we were very transient. I mean, we had our areas that we belonged to or we lived in, but unlike the challenges that we're faced today in stewarding the land where we are, we've lost considerable amounts of where we originally occupied. So stewarding that and making sure, because we don't have that ability to move around like we have to be especially cognizant of the way that we serve Mother Earth, and especially the land in which we occupy currently.
Well, and we have 11 tribes in Wisconsin, similar here to Minnesota. And I really wish that a Ho-Chunk, because we are from here too, would become the 12th
Right.
in Minnesota. A lot of people don't know that, but we've been here tens of thousands of years. And I really, you said that in your speech too about we've been here for 10,000 years. And Winona LaDuke was going to be on today, but she had to pick up a plane, and she always says that we're the home team. We've been here 10,000 years. So what other tribes are in Wisconsin? Again, this is kind of FYI out there too, because we have such a big listening audience all over the nation here.
So we have 7 Ojibwe tribes, and then we have Ho-Chunk Nation, Stockbridge-Munsee, we have Menominee Nation, and we have Oneida Nation.
And roughly, I guess I'm reading here that it's roughly 45 counties and 1 million acres, spanning 45 counties that our nations are in. And at one time, we were everywhere. So
Exactly. Even though perhaps the narrative isn't always said as such, and the thing of it is, Robert, is tribes are always looking as sovereigns and political bodies to reestablish, to your point, our original homelands and expand that, because the need for growth, right? And the need to expand. And right now in America, there's a significant issue around housing scarcity. There's a huge influx and push for going back to our native roots in terms of food sovereignty and food sovereign initiatives, starting to raise different types of bison and reclamation with the way that we have our water streams and a reemergence in the sturgeon. So for example, pretty soon here, as soon as spring breaks, the sturgeons spur, and they it's such a beautiful ceremony that the Menominee Nation has, and it's something something everybody should experience and see, because I think when you do something like that, you have that sort of connection to the actual thing that you're viewing or you're experiencing. And I think as Indigenous people, we see things that way. It's not just, it's sort of like how I feel when I go back to the Berkshires or upstate New York. It's just the connection you have. And people often ask me, I did a keynote at Williams College in Massachusetts, and people ask, well, why do you have that connection? I said, well, because my ancestors are still there. You know, your ancestors always speak to you in different ways. And so there's that connection that we all have, much like, you know, for you, Robert, when I was at the state capitol, it is suggested that sits on an effigy mound, that Dejote Madison is Ho-Chunk Nation. Your relatives were there, so they are always there.
Exactly. I appreciate that. It's amazing too. I think one of the things too, because we're on a lot of progressive radio stations across the country, and one of the things Wendy and I always talk about is that, you know, we're the last to be colonized. I mean, we people from Ireland were colonized by the kings. Our Mexican brothers and sisters were colonized by the Spaniards, and we're the last. But if they go deep into their own soul, they'll realize that, you know, Mother Earth and Father Sky is in their DNA too.
Indeed, Robert. I mean, I talk to people about this all the time, especially young people. I always tell them that we are not descendants of the subjugated, to your point. You know, and assimilation or colonization means different things, but especially to my tribe, where we were some of the first contact, and you had a lot of missionaries coming in trying to develop or to impose their will, if you would, to, you know, kill the Indian, save the man. And so, you know, you have a lot of that, and it's a tribute to your survival too. And I am so pleased that there are so many nations that are, in my opinion, starting to be woke about the importance of teaching that. You know, and in my speech, I talked a lot about the significance and need to know our history, because one, you don't want it to repeat itself, but I think a lot of textbooks and people perceive Indigenous people pre-1900s. And so they speak of us, or they learn of us in a past tense. And I think it's significantly important for us to re-educate and reclaim who we really are as Indigenous people of this land.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I hope you feel the same way we do. But boy, we're really proud of our young people now, because Wendy and I graduated, or the year before we graduated was the Religious Act in 1978.
Right.
So, I mean, we were all pretending to be other people other than natives back then, until maybe the American Indian movement kind of shook us up here in the Twin Cities to get really proud of who we are. But it's amazing that our young people are really grabbing onto the language, and they're doing things that I didn't do 50, 60 years ago.
Indeed. But I think, to your point, Robert, it was about that. I mentioned it in my speech that the freedom of religion was not afforded tribal nations until 1978. I mean, you couldn't probably hear it, but people gasped. And it's like they don't understand it. And to your point, you know, even with the Indian Relocation and Education Act of the early 70s, you know, imagine, and then these other movements for civil rights. Imagine, you know, at that time, a snapshot in that time of what really had to be done by sovereign nations in order to even get that stood up. And a lot of people don't even understand that that was under President Nixon's administration. I think a lot of people, and I tell them, you know, I pledge allegiance to the Mohican Nation. I said, Indigenous people aren't necessarily right or left. They're just we survive. So we find ways to adapt relationships and build relationships, because since time immemorial, we recognize the significance of our survival and the need for it. And honestly, tribal nations have since time immemorial had their own governing documents in some way or form or fashion, until it was probably memorialized probably in the 1700s. But what we did was we had a way that we navigated life in an equitable and inclusive way, because we are very community centric people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we really appreciate you jumping in, and I really appreciate your speech yesterday, and it really made me be proud to be a part of that, a small part of it, even though I'm in District 4, which is outside of Wisconsin, still part of the Ho-Chunk Nation. And we were really proud to hear your speech, and it hit all cylinders, like I said on Facebook. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your truth, and really celebrating your speech with us and our listeners. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much to the both of you for continuing to do the good work that you do, because it's through these efforts that you have the ability to have robust conversations, and sometimes difficult conversations with people about who we are, who we still are, and our strength. And that was really my goal. I wasn't going to concede, because we are not subjugated, but to come from a position of confidence and capabilities and strength, because that's who we are as Indigenous people. So I sincerely appreciate that and all the work you do, and thank you for having me, and Anishik, and be well.
Wow, thank you so much. Shannon Holsey, the president of Stockbridge-Munsee Band of Mohican Indians, Pinigigi, so much for being on our show today, and hopefully we'll have you on again real soon. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break with Bob Blake from Red Lake.
Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Stay healthy this winter by protecting yourself, your family, and your community from COVID-19. Get a vaccine or booster. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, and free, and approved for everyone over the age of 5. Wear a mask outdoors in crowds and indoor settings, and lay low or get tested before visiting family and friends or attending events. To get more tips, schedule your vaccine, or get tested, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. That's ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
Navigating COVID while protecting yourself can be difficult. Fortunately, there's a hotline you can call with any questions. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on vaccines, booster shots, and testing sites. Right now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those who are eligible. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986.
Hey, Minnesota, it's Brad Friedman, host of the Bradcast. We'll expose all the latest schemes, frauds, and more. Weeknights at 7 on AM 950.
Hey, it's Tom for All Energy Solar. You may know that All Energy Solar can make your home energy efficient, but what about businesses, both big and small? All Energy Solar has been helping the business community with full-service clean energy solutions for over a decade. If you run a business, you know how important it is to keep expenses under control. And one expense you'll always have are utilities. So stop renting your energy from the utility company because the rent keeps going up. Instead, cut those utility bills and switch to All Energy Solar so you can invest those savings in what your business does best. Hundreds of businesses are taking control of their energy expenses with All Energy Solar. And with significant federal and local incentives available, it's a better time than ever to cut your utility bill and become more energy efficient with All Energy Solar. Get a free no-obligation assessment from All Energy Solar's commercial solar specialists today by calling 800-620-3370 or visiting allenergysolar.com. That's allenergysolar.com.
With their AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for cloudy skies overnight with a low of 5 below. Thursday, some light snow with a high near 13. And Friday, sunny with a high around 15. Check out the award-winning Hazel's Northeast for a delicious meal any time of the day. They have some of the most creatively prepared comfort food you'll find. And Hazel's is now open Tuesdays through Saturdays from 8 to 8 with a Sunday brunch from 8 until 2. Located off 29th and Johnson in Minneapolis and at hazelsnetogo.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, we're here with Solar Bear with the Solar News, and it's Bob Blake from Red Lake Nation, and really good to have you on, Bob, as always, and getting your updates and positive vibes over here and over the waves. I really appreciate you, and welcome as always to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
That has always been my favorite, Robert. Remember, like, going back to like the first time I went into your studio out in Eden Prairie, and I was like, "Can we do the howl?"
I saved it for you.
Yeah, I remember I said that to you. Can we do the howl? Can we do the howl? That was so funny. But the first time we did an interview, I remember asking you that. We were in the studios, and it was completely, it was the best.
Yeah. And then we went to Jay Selby's and had a vegan burger.
No, we actually went to Old Chicago first.
Oh, okay. Well, they're not a sponsor. We won't mention their name.
Oh, no, but we did go to Jay Selby's after that. And I had no idea Wendy was from New York. And I was sitting there and I was catching her accent. And I was like trying to figure out to myself where she was from. And I was thinking the East Coast, and I was like, no, she can't be. And so I had to come clean on that. I was actually trying to figure out Wendy's accent for the longest.
What accent? Now that I've been in New York now for a month, it's even stronger. So that when I get back home, Robert will say to me, "Oh my goodness, you sound so New York."
Wendy, what's a T-shirt you're gonna get too? Our daughter mentioned that before the show.
I'm not yelling. I'm Italian.
Yeah. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Hey, so here's what happened this week, guys. They're calling this the Holy Grail of batteries. And what it is essentially is they're saying that they figured out how to make lithium ion batteries, the kind that we have in our vehicles, in our cell phones, our laptops, whatever, to last like 30 times more longer. And this is crazy. So we're talking about a range now of cars having like 300, 400, 500 miles to maybe 1,000 miles now.
Wow.
So this is really Drexel University scientists have found a way to improve on lithium sulfur batteries for EVs. And so this just goes to show, Robert, how incredibly fast technology is moving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think we underestimated, the fact of building more pipelines and other oil infrastructure really we're not going to need.
Right. And it's amazing too, Bob. I've talked about this with you before. Oh, nice picture back there, by the way. I've talked to you about this before. I remember when calculators first came out and they were like $500 and they were as big as a bread basket. And then, 10 years later, their calculators are on my writing utensil, my pen, for free. So that's where batteries are going. I know when we started the show talking to you about batteries were pretty darn expensive, and this has just been 3-4 years now.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, we always known this. I mean, and Winona, and Tara have been like, obviously for maybe other, for other reasons, but I mean, just straight practical business reasons now, we literally are not going to need this oil infrastructure. I mean, because it's going to be, stranded assets. It really is.
Wow. Yeah. And I think people are seeing that because, you watch Super Bowl and the ads. Wendy, I don't know if you saw that one ad with the young Sopranos actors and they did the intro and then they were shooting. The song had something to shoot where the gun in it, and all of a sudden they pulled out the thing and plugged in their car. It's like,
I saw it. Yeah, I just watched the commercials during the Super Bowl.
yeah.
All right. So my next story, Robert, is another way that I'm sorry, but we just talked about oil here. Here's the next one. I mean, this is going to relate to coal now. So what happens, people, is investor-owned utilities like the big guys like Xcel, Minnesota Power, have these like contracts to purchase coal till like 2080 or something. Now, with that being said, that means they have to sell you power for what they agreed upon to buy that coal for. It is now there are solar power systems that are like solar power plants that are being built across the world right now, different countries, and this is just an example here. Concentrated solar power has made it available that the energy cost could be at 5 cents a kilowatt.
Wow.
So you think about that, Robert. I mean, that means that, and what's happening, Robert, is different companies, just regular companies like Levi's, let's just say, okay, I'm not saying Levi's is doing this, but let's use them as an example. They're just getting into this game because of the cheap, opportunity to get in and make a real sizable profit by selling energy. And this is what's happening right now with these concentrated solar power systems that, obviously are going to be replacing the coal, so, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, fossil fuels, I'm sorry, but this transition is happening and the investment into these, traditional fossil fuel vehicles are, whatever, what have you, it's done. The writing's on the wall, Robert.
Exactly. Hey, one of those farms, I think I saw a picture of one and it was a circle was where they were all coming out from was there any significance to that or was that just a design?
Yeah. So what that does is that it is at all points and directs. And what it does is it builds it's a bunch of rocks and it creates steam. And that's what powers the turbines for the electricity that's generated from that concentration of heat.
Wow.
And that's how it works. And Robert, that's basically what hydro does. That's basically what it is. It's to push the turbines to create the energy that you and I use while we're doing this right here. We're doing this interview. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, this is incredible. And I'm telling you, I mean, people, get your money out of fossil fuels.
Yeah, let's start investing now. Maybe we can start another show called Indian Stocks. Which stocks to buy us Indians should be buying, right?
Absolutely. My last story here is the Urban League in Wisconsin created a solar training program. And what I've been seeing a lot, Robert, is the historical Black college universities have been also too focusing in on renewable energy careers. And what I'm saying is, I mean, they are on the right path, and I would really like to. I hope that a lot of Native colleges out there and Native, the other universities, I mean, are focusing in on these careers because they're going to boom eventually, and there's going to be such a huge wealth creation by us having to redo, our electrical grid system, and the opportunities there are going to be like so abundant for communities of color to, this transition has never been able to, at least in our lifetime, Robert, been able to happen. This is actually a moonshot moment here. And I just don't want to see BIPOC communities get left behind.
Right. The training is going to be imperative. And then also, too, like yourself, BIPOC companies should be starting up, too, whether they're solar farms, whether they're, solaring up their neighborhood, because we know that roofs and streets are becoming solar. You can make solar panels and put them on the streets and the roofs made out of shingles, and there's just going to be so many things that our great grandkids are going to scoff at the way we used to live.
No, I absolutely, Robert. I mean, there's going to be so many opportunities for our kids to just really take advantage of this in the future. It's going to be incredible. And the one thing I really want to help see is for BIPOC communities to be a part of this great transition, because it's coming. But here's the thing, though, it's coming fast. Mm-hmm. And we can't get left behind again.
Right. And especially with the money that's flowing around for nations, and also just to where to put your money, because casinos can only go for so long and so well. And there's the medical field and the solar field, and there's things like that. Bob, we only got a minute left. Where are you speaking now? I know you go on a speaking tour all the time. Your people have you all over the country. Where are you speaking next?
I'm actually, I think there's a couple of places I got to speak at, but I'm really excited for, in a couple of months, I'll be going out to Vancouver, British Columbia, to speak at the national world climate indigenous conference or something. University of Colorado's flying me out. So I'll share all that when it happens, Robert.
Wow, that's great. Hey, Bob Blake from Red Lake, I just got to say that first, but also it was Solar Bear and Native Sun, the nonprofit, and checking in and giving us all the great news to look forward to. And let's go, Native communities. Let's get involved and let's buy in. We'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Life is a journey, and the Doherty Family College will help you get where you want to go. Located downtown Minneapolis, this affordable 2-year college provides free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, one-on-one mentorship, and a Metro Transit pass, making DFC the perfect pathway to a bachelor's degree. Turn your dreams into reality. Connect with a counselor today at dfc.stthomas.edu.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Children's Minnesota raises up children's health by raising the standards, hands, voices, the bar, the stakes, the questions, and the curtain on raising kids' health to the highest priority. With the most pediatric experts in the upper Midwest, we're setting the stage because kids need us, all of us. So let's raise them up so every kid can reach their best health. Children's Minnesota, the kid experts.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
I'm doing it again. This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Oh. I'm really howling because you're coming home tomorrow, and you won't be on the show tomorrow, but soon enough it'll be we'll be in the same studio again and looking at each other, and you'll be looking at me in amazement too that I'll be mispronouncing names and cities and things, and it'll be good to have you here doing the show again.
Yeah, that's fine. That's part of your charm, right? That's what they say.
Yeah,
You did good today.
One in a row. Yeah, I had to go. Okay, how do you say this last name? You know, you know me, right?
Yeah, the weather here in on Long Island today, I don't know if it broke a record or not, but it got up to like 65 degrees. We were sitting outside. I was at my niece's house with my aunt and cousin and her kids. It was really, really beautiful. Tomorrow's going to get back down to like 35. So, I don't know, I'm kind of looking forward to getting back to St. Paul and of course seeing you and the dogs and feeling that brutal cold as usual. The brutal cold.
And the cat.
Oh, I'll never forget the cat. Yeah, definitely.
Won't let you. Cool. So, hey, I know you were going to take the week off here, but I pleaded you to come on, and I know you got some news that you can update with your sacred animal section. So why don't we jump into right into that?
Yeah, I kind of always have something in the back of my pocket here that I always like to talk about. And what we were talking about last week and the week before were lead poisoning in eagles. And I have an article here, NPR News, and it's dated February 18th, 2022. It was updated at 6:18 a.m. And it says here that nearly half of U.S. bald eagles suffer from lead poisoning. Almost half, nearly half. It really seems astonishing to me. But America's national bird previously believed with nearly half of bald eagles tested across the United States showing signs of chronic lead exposure, according to a study published back on the 18th of February. While the bald eagle population has rebounded from the brink of extinction, and the U.S. Banned pesticide and DDT, we both remember that, Robert, 1972, harmful levels of toxic lead were found in bones of 46% of bald eagle sampled in 38 states from California to Florida, researchers reported in the journal Science. Similar similar rates of lead exposure were found in golden eagles, which scientists say means the raptors likely consumed carrion or prey contaminated by lead from ammunition or fishing tackle. Now, we've been talking about this for a really, really long time, and we're going to be talking to our legislators, especially in Minnesota right now, about hunters using other ammunition besides lead. There's other means of ammunition to be used. The blood, bones, feathers, and tissue of 1,210 eagles sampled from 2010 to 2018 were examined to assess chronic and acute lead exposure. Quote, this is the first time for any wildlife species that we've been able to evaluate lead exposure and population level consequences at a continental scale, said study co-author Todd Kratzner, a wildlife biologist and a U.S. Geological Survey in Boise, Idaho. It's sort of stunning that nearly 50% of them are getting repeatedly exposed to lead. And we all know that lead is a neurotoxin, and even in low levels impairs an eagle's balance and stamina, reducing its ability to fly, hunt, and reproduce. In high doses, lead causes seizures, breathing difficulties, and death. The study examined that lead exposure reduced the annual population growth of bald eagles by 4% and golden eagles by 1%. Bald eagles are one of America's most celebrated conservation success stories, and the birds were removed from the U.S. endangered species list in 2007. But scientists say that high lead levels are still a concern. Besides suppressing eagle population growth, lead exposure reduces their resilience in facing future challenges such as climate change or infectious diseases. We talk about recovery. It's not really the end of the story. There is still threats to bald eagle, says Kristen Schuler, a wildlife disease ecologist at Cornell University College of Veterinary Medicine, who was not involved in the study. Previous studies have shown high lead exposure in specific regions, but not across the country. The blood samples from live eagles in the new study were taken from birds trapped and studied for other reasons. The bone, feathers, and liver samples came from eagles killed by collisions and vehicles or power lines or other misfortune. So when they find these dead eagles from a very wide variety of different deaths, and they study them, they all found that they have some lead poisoning. It's just unbelievable.
What was interesting, Wendy, is that
Mhm.
that made national news, and they brought that up. But you know how the national news is. It was like a 15-second clip, but I went, wow, there it was, and they talked definitely about Kitty Easy. They
It's my
talked
segment.
definitely,
She's here.
yeah, they talked definitely about lead bullets.
I know. Yeah, the researchers also found elevated levels of lead exposure in fall and winter. Um, and that's because of the hunting season, right? Is in the fall and the winter. And that's when they're finding the high levels because of the bullets that they're using. Now, there's lots of controversy out there about using other bullets like copper, I believe. And the NRA, of course, they will say that they don't give a good as a kill as lead bullets, and then the animals suffer more. But there's controversy and opposing studies that show that that is not true. So of course, the NRA, any infringement of for hunting, no matter what it is, even if it's the right thing, saying getting rid of lead bullets and let's try using this bullet instead, instead, the NRA believes that it's a rabbit hole that we're going to go down. Like if they ban lead bullets, then what's going to happen next? They're not going to let us kill deer or wolves, or they're going to infringe upon us hunting. And they call it anti-hunting. So we really have to get back to a place where we're not using lead bullets and we're not using lead sinkers in our waters, because it's not only toxic to these poor animals. People are eating these animals, even small children. You know how lead has been taken out of everything, right? It's been taken out of paint. It's been taken out of car paint. It's been taken out of gasoline, right? For a reason, because it's toxic, it's deadly, and it's dangerous. So we also need to get rid of lead in this environment also. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. And if you know a hunter, please ask them to not use lead bullets. If you are a hunter, please stop using lead bullets. And if you're a fisherman, let's find other, lines to use.
Exactly. Hey, Wendy, thanks a lot for stepping in and doing a great job as always. Let's get rid of lead. If you're listening to the story, you are part of the resistance from Chief Plentycoops. The ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, and run for office. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3. Please get vaccinated and boosted.
If you're someone that counts on AM 950 to bring you the latest in progressive politics, news, and talk,